Hello, Oscar. Grandpa here. How are you? I hope you had a fun weekend. I'm sorry we were busy. We had lots of people for a party yesterday. So we were very busy. I didn't have time to read you. But there it is. It's lovely to be able to read you today. And it's lots of love from Granny and Grandpa, me, and of course, Moosey. So what do you think, Moosey? You had a good weekend? Yep. I had a good weekend. Yep. Not too bad. Yep. So there it is. Moosey's going to sit there a moment while... You all right down there, Moosey? Yep. We carry on the story of the puzzle penguin. Now, if you remember, Zoe took little Pip, the puzzle penguin, into the penguin enclosure and went in their swimming pool, didn't she? And Zoe laughed and she said, "You're swimming, Pip," she exclaimed in delight. "Now, do you believe you're a penguin?" The chip cheeked again and flapped his tiny wings excitedly. His eyes were bright and his tail feathers were wagging happily. Zoe beamed, relief flooding through her. Her plan had worked. Pip loved swimming, and finally he knew where he belonged. So there it is. Pip knows he's a penguin now, Oscar. That's pretty good. I think that's lovely. So it's now chapter 11, and it says the title of the chapter is A Very Special Ice Lolly, and ice cream in other words. Ooh. Pip swam through the lagoon, diving right down to the bottom and then shooting all the way back up to the surface. He wriggled his body to pick up speed, swimming faster and faster, and then leapt right out of the water, sailing through the air before splashing back in again. I bet you can't do that, Oscar. I know you're a pretty good swimmer, but I don't think you can leap out up into the air like a penguin and down in again. No, I don't think so. Okay, so Zoe heard a voice gasp. "Oh, wow, look, Mum, there's a girl swimming with the penguins." Zoe looked through the glass walls of the enclosure. The zoo gates must have just opened as visitors were streaming down the path. As people spotted Zoe in the lagoon, they rushed over to watch. Lots of visitors pulled out their cameras and snapped photos of her, and Zoe waved at them shyly. Will came back out into the enclosure and settled down on the rocks next to me, looking pleased with all the attention. Suddenly Zoe froze. Behind the crowd of happy people she saw one very angry face coming down the path towards her. I wonder who that could be, Oscar. Mr. Pinch looked even crosser than yesterday. He pushed rudely through the visitors, scowling furiously at Zoe. "Miss Parker, this is a disgrace," he snapped. "Is this your idea of selling tickets for the penguin feeding show?" The crowd of visitors turned to stare at Zoe curiously. Zoe could feel her cheeks turning pink. The ticket, she thought. I'm in so much trouble. Then she felt something very small and soft brushing against her hand. She looked down. Pip rubbed his head against her, making a very happy peeping sound. Zoe couldn't help smiling at the little chick. I did the right thing, she thought. I don't mind getting into trouble with Mr. Pinch if that's what it takes to help Pip. But maybe I can still do something to help Will and the show too. Whoa, that sounds exciting, Oscar, doesn't it? Zoe splashed across to the glass wall so that she could speak to the crowd over the top of it. Hello, everyone, she called. My name is Zoe. As you can see, we have lots of beautiful penguins here at the Rescue Zoo. Most of our birds are Adelie, Rockhopper, or Emperor penguins. Ooh, that's interesting names, isn't it, Oscar? So there's Adelie penguins, Rockhopper penguins, and Emperor penguins. They're all very friendly, including the colony's newest member. She pointed to Pip. The little chick twittered excitedly and dived under the water, gliding towards Zoe. As he reached her, he popped up above the surface again, right in front of the crowd. He's gorgeous, whispered a lady with curly white hair, lifting her granddaughter up to see better. Ooh, that could have been Annabelle, couldn't it, Oscar? This is Pip, Zoe explained to the crowd. He arrived at the rescue zoo 2 days ago, and he loves his new home already. If any of you would like to see more of Pip and the other birds, there'll be a special penguin feeding show at 3 o'clock today. She glanced at Mr. Pinch's furious face and took a deep, nervous breath. Would anyone like to buy a ticket? The little girl with the black plate was the first to reply. Me, she called eagerly. Her mum smiled and nodded. We'll take 2, she said. These penguins are so adorable. Behind them, more people in the crowd nodded and called out. Where can we buy our tickets from? Asked a blonde lady wearing lots of pink lipstick. There's a little wooden hut on the other side of the path, Zoe told them, pointing. That's where the tickets and the money tin are. If you don't mind waiting just a couple of minutes, I'll jump out of the water and get dry. Then I'll come straight over. The blonde lady tutted. But you're having so much fun in the water, it seems such a shame to make you get out now. She turned to Mr. Finch. Excuse me, she said bossily. I think I heard you say something about the show before. Why does this little girl have to sell the tickets? We can just put our money straight into the tin and take a ticket ourselves. That seems so much simpler to me. The crowd murmured in agreement. Mr. Pinch stared in disbelief at the crowd. Before he could argue, the blonde lady reached into a handbag for her purse and marched over to the hut. The rest of the crowd followed her, eagerly chatting about the show. Shaking his head angrily, the zoo manager shot a final glare at Zoe and stomped after them. Zoe couldn't believe it. Will grinned at her. Brilliant, Zoe, he said. You don't have to spend the whole summer in the hut, and the visitors are going to buy hundreds of tickets. In fact, it looks as though today's show is going to sell out, called another voice. Zoe turned to see her mum stepping into the enclosure, holding a big, fluffy white towel under one arm and a small box under the other. Ooh, I wonder what's in the box, Oscar. I've just walked past the hut, Lucy continued. There's a queue of visitors stretching all the way to the hippo enclosure. Wow, that's fantastic, isn't it, Oscar? Zoe splashed to the edge of the lagoon and climbed out, dripping and shivering. Oh, she must have been a bit cold by then. Lucy wrapped the soft white towel around her shoulders. Zoe cuddled into it gratefully. Now you go and sit in the sunshine with me, her mum told her. You'll be warm and dry in just a few minutes, and then I've got a treat for you both. Ooh, a treat. Wonder what it can be. Zoe stepped into her flip-flops and went to sit by her best friend. She started to feel warmer straight away. As she tipped her head back to enjoy the sunshine on her face, Meep leapt into her lap for a hug. Meep, I'm still wet, Zoe said, laughing. You know you'll be grumpy if your fur gets damp. I don't mind, Meep chirped, nuzzling his head against her. I'm so excited, Zoe. Pip's happy, and we get a treat. Even better, we don't have to sell any more tickets, Zoe added, grinning at her little friend as her little friend started jumping up and down in excitement. I can't believe it, Meep. We've got our summer back. They sat in the sun for a little while, watching the penguins swoop and glide in the lagoon. Zoe changed back into her summer dress and was soon lovely and warm again. Here you go, you two, Lucy called. Come and have something yummy for a hot summer's day. Zoe made her way back to the edge of the lagoon, with Leap scampering eagerly ahead. Lucy opened the little box and held it out to them. There's a strawberry ice lolly for you, Zoe, and some frozen mango for Meep, she said. And I've got something special for the penguins too, added Will, bringing out a larger box. He smiled proudly as he took the lid off and showed them what was inside. Fish lollies. Can you imagine that, Oscar? Ice lollies made of fish. Fish ice lollies. I made them last night from frozen pilchards. Zoe, will you help me hand them out? Zoe reached into the box and picked up a handful of cold, slippery lollies. As the penguins started splashing out of the water and waddling over at her, she placed them on the ice so that they could nibble and peck away at them. Zoe made sure that Pip had a big lolly all to himself. Eat it all up, Pip, she whispered. You've done lots of swimming this morning. You must be very hungry. They heard a snooty voice behind them. Well, it looks as though the penguin feeding show is going to be a very popular attraction at the rescue zoo after all. I knew all along that it was one of my best ideas. Zoe whirled round to see Mr. Pinch looking very smug. Will cleared his throat. Mr. Pinch, Actually, it was my... Mr. Pinch continued loudly. Yes, a truly excellent idea. He spotted the fish ice lollies in Zoe's hand. So if anyone deserves to relax with an ice lolly, it really should be me. Before Zoe could stop him, Mr. Pinch had grabbed one of the lollies out of her hands and given it a big lick. Ooh. Can you imagine licking a fish ice lolly, Oscar? Lucy and Will both gasped and Zoe held her breath. Mr. Pinch chewed the lolly thoughtfully. What an unusual flavour, he commented, taking another bite. Is it apple? Lemon? No. Strawberry? No, that's not it. Zoe glanced at the others. Will was grinning and her mum was trying very hard not to smile. It's a special new flavour, Will told Mr. Pinch helpfully, winking at Zoe. Homemade this morning to celebrate little Pip settling in so well. Mr. Pinch nodded. Very interesting. Well, I better get on. I have a very busy day ahead as usual. They all watched as Mr. Pinch, as he disappeared down the path, still munching away at his fish lolly. As soon as he was out of sight, everyone burst out laughing. That was the funniest thing I've seen in a long time, said Will, shaking his head. Well, it serves the old grump right for pretending the show was his idea. Oh dear, poor Mr. Pinch, added Lucy, smiling. I think we'd better keep this a secret, Zoe. He'd be ever so cross if he found out what the lolly really was. Zoe grinned and nodded. I won't say a word, she promised, but the next time Mr. Pinch shouts at me, she thought, I'll just remember him taking a giant slurp of fish lolly and I'll feel much better. Absolutely. As Pip and the other penguins finished their treats and started diving back into the lagoon, Will picked up the box. I'd better go and put these spare lollies back in the freezer before Mr. Pinch comes back and eats them all, he said, winking. And I'd better get back to the hospital, Lucy said, standing up. One of the little bear cubs has got hay fever. He's been sneezing all morning. Do you want to come, Zoe? Can I stay here a little longer? Zoe asked. Lucy smiled. You can do anything you like, she said, ruffling Zoe's hair. You've got the whole summer to spend at the zoo. As her mum left the enclosure, Zoe sat back down on the edge of the lagoon to eat her ice lolly, dangling her feet in the cool water. Meek jumped onto her shoulder, clutching a piece of mango in his tiny fingers. They both waved at Pip, who was splashing happily in the middle of the lagoon. The little chip flapped his flippers. Can't say that properly, Oscar. The little chip flapped his flippers before swooping under the surface with some of his new friends. Zoe licked her lolly and sighed. I am so happy, Meek, she told her friend. Pip's going to fit in perfectly at the rescue zoo. And now we can come and play with him every day for the rest of the summer. Meek chirped in agreement. And can we see Bella every day too, Zoe? He added hopefully. Bella was a gorgeous polar bear cub who was just a few months old and would run as Zoe and Meek's special friends at the zoo. Definitely, said Zoe, and we can give Oscar his breakfast every morning, just like we promised him. I want to spend lots of time with the baby wallabies and the pygmy piglets too. And one night Mum said we could have a sleepover under the stars. Ooh, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it, Oscar? And watch the snowy owls flying above us. I can't wait. Wow, we had a story about Snowy Owl, didn't we, Oscar? And you loved it. I think I might just read that to you again one day. Meek squeaked in excitement and Zoe scooped her little friend into her arms for a cuddle. She sighed happily. Meek, I think this is going to be our best ever summer at the rescue zoo. And that's the end of that story, Oscar. Look, and there's Zoe and all the penguins in the penguin enclosure. And there is little Pip, big fluffy ball. So there it is. It's been lovely reading to you. And next time we're going to start a new story, and it's going to be about the lucky snow leopard. How about that, Oscar? That looks exciting. So have a lovely time with your mummy and daddy and with your little sister Annabelle. I've loved watching you two playing together and drawing on the window and looking out at the snow. It's very snowy. I hope it's not too cold with you. Anyway, have lots of fun and lots of love from Granny and Grandpa to you all. Bye for now. Bye.